Hi everyone, and welcome to the first UK University Search live webinar. It's fantastic to see so many of you have joined us today. This is our first in a series of Webinar Wednesdays, and more information about how you can get involved in our future webinars will be coming up a little later. I'm your host Megan, and firstly I'd just like to mention that if any of your friends have been unable to join the Zoom session, we are live streaming on YouTube, so please ask them to view the live stream on UK University Search YouTube. Okay, we've got a lot of great topics to discuss today, so let's dive in and welcome our panellists. First up, we have Rebecca Oliver from Bournemouth University, who will be talking about the benefits of attending university. Then Ali Clark from the University of Stirling will be discussing how to choose the course that's right for you. Next up, we have Elliot Newstead from the University of Leicester, who will talk you through how to make the most of virtual events such as online open days. We'll then pass over to Rebecca Bowen from the University of South Wales, who'll be breaking down personal statements for you. After that, we'll meet Andy Cotterill from City, University of London, who to talk about student finance. And finally, we'll be chatting to Jonathan Atkinson from the University of Liverpool about the Russell Group universities. Jonathan has also kindly agreed to talk to us about how universities are responding to the challenges posed by COVID-19. We'll be finishing up today with a question and answer session. So if you would like to ask any of our panellists a question, please click on question and answer if you're viewing on Zoom, or leave your question in the comments section if you're viewing on YouTube. And that's it from me. So we'll pass over to Rebecca Oliver with the benefits of university.
So I'm joining you from a very sunny south coast, and I get to talk to you about the benefits of HE. So we normally do this presentation. It will take us about 45 minutes, an hour, to talk about all the different things that you get when you do go into HE. So to cut it down to kind of 5-6 minutes, what I did was speak to some of my colleagues to chat to them about what they said were the biggest benefits of their university careers. Actually, quite a lot of it was more around the extracurricular activities than it was necessarily around the academic. But really the word that came up on repeat was around opportunity and all the different opportunities that HE brings. So first and foremost, it's the opportunity to study something that you really love and something that you're passionate about. So as you've kind of progressed through that educational journey, you've been able to narrow your choices down, and by the time you get to HE, you're able to really focus on something that you genuinely love being involved in, something that really kind of motivates you to get up and get studying. The other thing is really about the opportunity around enhancing your employability, and some of that will definitely be linked to your course. Some of it will be around work placements. So some of the courses that you're looking at might have mandatory work placements. Some might be short, some might be long, some might have a full year where you might hear it referenced as a sandwich year. But actually being able to get some real life work experience really sets you ahead sometimes of other candidates when you do graduate and you're looking for that employment. So being able to give those real life work experiences is a real opportunity. It does also really have that financial impact as well. So for a lot of those students, there is evidence that suggests that you will earn more over your career than some of those who are non-graduates as well. So there will be that monetary benefit when you do go into the world of employment. In terms of that employability skills as well, the opportunity to network is something that you can't underestimate at university. Some of your lecturers will still be active in the industries that they're teaching in, but they'll also have lots of employers, whether that's local, international, and that you'll be able to kind of link with. The skill of networking is something that can't be underestimated as well. It's something that you can really hone whilst you're at university and something you'll take into all of your career as you move forward. But all of those opportunities, really seize them when you're at university. So it might be around guest lectures, it might be the alumni who've gone on to have professional careers in the industry that you're interested in, it may be careers fairs. Really make sure that you access those. Sometimes they're not necessarily linked directly to the course that you're studying as well. So make sure that you are plugged into all of the different networks that you have across the institution that you go and study at. The other area that's really exciting is around global experiences, so the opportunity, whether that be to study or work or volunteer abroad. It's something that you won't necessarily get in any other walk of life. There is lots of funding available, there's lots of people to support you with those opportunities, so really make sure that you embrace those. When you go to open days, some of which will be virtual in the current climate, find out about the opportunities to go global and whether there is an opportunity to study abroad, whether that's a semester abroad or not, and whether there's opportunities to volunteer, to work, to use your kind of downtime over the summer to go abroad. Again, there is evidence that really strongly suggests that those that have a global experience also go on to better degree outcomes as well. So not only is it something that's a really great experience for you personally, but also could really benefit your degree outcome and also you professionally as you move through your career. The other things that really came up when I spoke to my colleagues was more about their independence and the experience that you gain when you're at university, particularly if you're coming straight from school or college. So it really bridges that gap between kind of the childhood and movement into adulthood and having that own independence, particularly if you are moving away from home. It's around the friends that you will make for life. So lots of people will still be in touch with their university peers years later, and they'll be involved in all of the big life events that happen throughout the years. There are so many extracurricular opportunities as well when you're at HE. So when I do normally go out and speak to schools and colleges, quite regularly I'll talk about the fact that actually sometimes at the school or college that you're studying at the moment, you might feel like you don't have a lot of like-minded people. But actually when you get to university, the number of different extracurricular opportunities that you can get involved in really shows that you will find somebody who has the same interests as you and you'll really be able to fit in. You'll also find that you'll be studying alongside lots of people with different backgrounds to you. So one of the real benefits and opportunities that university brings is around that life learning. So you may be sat in a seminar room with people who are international if you're a UK student and vice versa. You'll have mature students who might have taken many years out and are coming back to retrain or starting at university for the first time. And you can't underestimate the experiences that you will have and the things that you will learn from each other around the different journeys that you've had. So all in all, university is such a fantastic experience. It is about the degree outcome, but it's about so much more than that. So anyone who is considering it, make sure you find out all the information about the institutions that you're choosing to study at. Don't let the current situation put you off. Make sure that you continue to do that research. And we hope to see some of you in September.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Next up, we have Ali Clark, who will talk about choosing a course.
Hello, everyone, and hello from Scotland. This is Amy behind me. She was one of our student ambassadors who now works in my team, and I'm isolating on my own, so I felt that, you know, I might be lonely, so that's why Amy's here to support me today. I'm going to talk about how to choose a course, which some of you might already have decided what sort of subject that you're interested in, others might not have a clue, but this will hopefully be useful for everyone. So you've got 5 choices in your UCAS form. For those of you that are applying for the likes of medicine, dentistry and veterinary medicine, again, you have 5 choices, but only 4 of those can be a medical school, a vet school or a dental school. So you need to use those 5 choices wisely. So something that you probably wouldn't have expected me to start with is how not to choose your course. So first of all, don't choose a trendy course. I've been in student recruitment for the last 19 years, and the first university that I worked for introduced a course on forensic science. This also happened to be around the same time as various television programmes like CSI, NCIS were coming on board, and every second person that I spoke to at a UCAS fair was interested in doing forensic science. Most of whom had never even considered studying chemistry or certainly weren't interested. So again, you shouldn't base what you're going to be doing with your career on a television programme. Also, what your friends are doing. It might be tempting, if you haven't 100% made up your mind what you want to do, to just follow your friends that you've been with for the last 6 years or even longer. But remember, it's your career and your future that you're thinking about. So you need to make sure that you're doing it for you. Purely only for financial gain, it might be tempting to do actuarial science because you've heard that the starting salary is about £36,000. But again, it shouldn't just be for financial gain. Giving in to parental pressures. It may be that your mum and dad have an engineering business and would like you to follow in their footsteps, or they've always envisaged you being a pharmacist or a doctor. But again, it should be up to you. Both my parents were accountants. I hate maths and I was never good at it at school, so that made my choice easy not to go down the accountancy route. Also, only sticking to what you know, there's over 40,000 different degree programmes to choose from across the UK, so you don't just need to stick with the subjects that you're familiar with, that you know. And then only choosing from your local university because and what they have to offer. Because there's so many universities out there and there's so many courses, every university, each university will not be able to offer every single subject. So if you're just choosing from what your local university offers, that does narrow down your search as well. So first things first, what is it that you are studying already? Which subjects do you have particular interest in? What are your predicted grades like? Can also help determine which courses and which universities that you're targeting. And do you have any interests outside of school that you would love to make into a career? That can also help you decide as well. Like I mentioned earlier, there's over 40,000 different degree programmes to choose from in the UK, everything from A to Z, accountancy to zoology, and everything in between. And maybe some courses that you've never even considered before: tournament golf, ethical hacking, paramedic science, and there's even a brewing and distilling course at Heriot-Watt University. It's a biological science degree, but you brew your own beer at the same time. So there's something for absolutely everyone. Some courses can be more competitive than others, so that's another thing to factor into your search, especially when you're looking at your predicted grades. So things like medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine, you would expect to be competitive. Other programs that maybe you're not so aware. So there's certain niche programs, things like forensic anthropology, where there's far fewer universities offering that course, or they've got far fewer places, and that as a result makes them more competitive. So some things to factor into your research. The main things to consider when you're doing your research is the course content. Now remember, you've only got 5 choices in your UCAS form, so you need to use it wisely. And a business management course, for instance, at one university may vary drastically from a business management course at a different university. Some may offer a work placement as part of the course, like Becky earlier mentioned, study abroad options, or it could be down to the methods of teaching and learning. So that's another factor. If you are more comfortable doing continuous learning, submitting courseworks rather than sitting an end of year exam, some university courses will offer that. So again, something to factor into your research. Entry requirements will vary between universities and between courses. If there's a dream course of yours that has quite a high entry requirement, and you're not sure with your predicted grades if you're going to achieve that, then by all means put an aspirational choice in your UCAS form so that you've got something to aim at. That's your dream choice, but again, put some realistic choices in there as well. Other things to factor in are graduate success rates, career opportunities. It may be that you're already thinking, what am I going to use this degree for? And through university websites and prospectuses, this information is freely available. The quality of academic facilities, and then once you've decided on the course or courses that you're interested in, that will then have narrowed the search in terms of which universities offer that, and then it's time to look at which university suits you best. So it could come down to the size of the university, whether it's a campus university. If you're not good in the mornings and you can't get out of bed, a campus university is very good because your halls of residence are right there. 5 minutes later, you're at your lectures. Or it could be that you want total anonymity and you want to be in a city environment, go to a city university. So these are other things to factor in. And just before I close, some of the sort of tools to use in terms of doing your research. UCAS Course Finder is very good. You can type in a UCAS Course Finder the name of a course, and it will come back with all the universities right across the UK that offer that particular programme. Obviously, university websites will go into a little bit more detail. Unfortunately, because we're all in lockdown just now, we're not afforded the opportunity to go and actually visit universities, although I think that open days, nothing beats an open day. You should be test driving your university. Most universities are replacing open days and visits just now with various virtual events, just like this. So please make use of them. There's applicant days that have been converted into virtual applicant days, and there's also a series of open days coming up as well. Although we hope to have physical open days in the autumn when we come out of lockdown. Another thing to focus on is speaking to current students, and a lot of universities offer what is known as UniBuddy, and it's current students at these different universities that are able to speak to you. You can ask various questions, so please make use of that as well. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll all come out of lockdown and you'll be able to visit us in person. Happy to answer any questions later on. I'm now going to pass over back to Megan.
Thank you very much, Ali. And now, as Ali mentioned about virtual events, Elliot Newstead from the University of Leicester is going to talk you through how to make the most of virtual events during this period.
Hi everyone, so my name's Elliot. I am the Student Recruitment Manager at the University of Leicester, and I'm going to talk a little bit for kind of 5 or 6 minutes or so about how you can make the most of all of these virtual events that my colleague Ali has just referred to. It's probably important to start with why we're at this stage. Obviously, in terms of being able to run physical events, that isn't really an option for the next few weeks and months, hopefully not too long, but universities have been very, very quick off the mark to convert their applicant days or offer holder days, as we call them at Leicester, as well as thinking about the summer events, things like open days, into more virtual opportunities for yourselves. So the main thing to kind of focus on is really try and make the most of these. So I've got a few kind of hints and tips that I'll go through to finish off with, but I just wanted to run through a little bit what they are and how universities are using them. So the first place to start is reaffirming that point, really. It's universities, and lots of universities are now running virtual opportunities for you to visit. Now, whether they are having lots of different content on a website, whether it's a live chat opportunity, whether it's a mixture of both of those things, virtual tours, essentially think of it as your opportunity to find out a lot of information about particularly universities in quite a short space of time. So there's a lot of content to go through. So my main kind of first tip is have a bit of a plan. What are you trying to achieve from taking part in the virtual event? Are you hoping to find out more about the specific course that you're interested in? It might be that you're using that opportunity to find out specifically about accommodation, the city, the student life. It could be all of those things together, which is fine. But have a bit of a plan. What do you want to get out of that event, rather than just kind of signing up, clicking a few website links and then going away thinking, I'm not really sure what I got from that. Have a plan and some outcomes that you want to achieve. There's usually some live chat opportunities as part of the virtual events, and that could be with students, it could be with academics, it could be with a bit of both of those audiences. So have a few questions prepared in advance would be again another tip I'd say, so you don't kind of forget and get and realize you haven't got what you wanted from the virtual event. So have a few questions noted down just on your phone or on a piece of paper, and get them asked as soon as you can. And kind of treat them as you would a normal event. Now, obviously, if you haven't been to an open day before, if you may be in year 12 or even a younger audience, you may not have visited a university campus before, and that is fine. For those of you that have visited a university campus before, again, treat them as you would a normal event. So think of it as meeting potential admissions tutors, meeting students, and showing your enthusiasm in a course if you get the opportunity to do so, and what I said earlier as well about finding out about everything you want to within that time frame is really, really important. You can usually take part in virtual tours as well. So whether it's 360-degree photos of maybe accommodation, whether it's Google Street View of the campus, whether it's a really whizzy virtual tour that has sort of augmented reality as part of it. Some universities have really gone to town on those. So there's usually opportunities to see the campus virtually, and some of them are particularly strong. So I definitely recommend checking out those. Some of the links are on YouTube as well, on university YouTube channels to a campus touring, or an example of a campus tour with a student ambassador. Have a plan of the universities you want to visit as well. This opportunity now, where we're at the moment, will allow you, and actually one of the benefits of where we're at the moment, is it allows you to visit, or virtually visit, probably lots more universities than you would be able to physically visit, as you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can, and there are a variety of days they are running, a variety of different times. You could potentially visit quite a few on the same day if the date's allowed. So have a plan of where you'd like to visit, and get those done, and really use the time now to make sure you're finding out as much as you can about as many universities as you can. As going back to what Ali was saying a minute ago, that will allow you to make the most informed choice as the right course for you, the right university for you. There is going to be a lot of content you're able to consume very quickly from these virtual events. So another tip from me would be have somewhere to store all this information. When I'm usually doing presentations in schools, I usually refer to some form of spreadsheet or document you might want to create to put all this down. So what is it you're looking for down sort of the top, and the universities down the side, and then kind of mark them out of maybe 10 or tick boxes for if they've got the things you're looking for, and kind of use that as your university research over the next few weeks and months. The other opportunity here is they are free to attend. You can sign up, you can do them from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to travel anywhere, nothing spent on train tickets, on petrol. You don't have to ask your mums and dads to drive you around the country as well. So you can really maximize these opportunities and make the most of the virtual events. The other main tip I'd probably suggest is that, given that there's a lot of universities now running these, the final two tips I'll give you is plot where you have gone. And now that sounds like an obvious comment to make, but even with normal open days, we've had students come to Leicester twice in the same year before. As they've been to so many open days, they've forgotten where they've been, and they generally have turned up to a second open day not realizing they'd already been to Leicester for their first open day. So plot where you've been, plot where you'd like to go and the dates they are running, and take a bit of time after you've made all your notes to go back through them, a bit like you would with revision. Take some time and work out if you got all the information you needed, and if not, you've got opportunities then to follow up afterwards with either live chat opportunities, as Ali referred to, via UniBuddy. Universities that have this will be on their website. You can maybe give the university an email and investigate anything you missed out as well, and then follow up where you need to. So if there's any other information you need, don't be afraid to get in touch with the universities. We are all here for you. We know it's a challenging time. We're hoping to run as many of these events as we can as a sector, and we really hope they are of value to students. So thanks very much for listening, and I'll pass back over to Megan.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Next up, from the University of South Wales, we have Rebecca Bowen, who's going to be talking to you about personal statements.
Prynawn da, everyone. Ryan, yeah, fab. Prynawn da, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca. I'm a Senior Student Recruitment Officer at the University of South Wales. I'm going to hopefully talk to you in 5 minutes about the key things that you should consider when you're drafting your personal statement. So first of all, what is a personal statement? So it's a 4,000 character, up to 4,000 character piece of work that becomes a really, really important part of your university application. Why is it important? Well, it's your opportunity to speak to the universities and tell us about all the things that you've done, or the experiences you've had, the skills and things, and why you'd be a good student to come and study with us. You're much more than a list of just grades and predicted grades. So this certainly gives us an opportunity to see a bit of your personality and find out more about you. The two key things then that I would suggest that a personal statement has to answer is question 1, why this course? We've heard already how many courses are available out there. So why have you chosen this course in particular? Be creative, be original in your reasons for this, but it's certainly the key piece of information that universities want to hear is why you've chosen this particular course. And the second important question is why we should choose you. It is a bit of a sales pitch. It's not something it's not something the students are very good at, are very comfortable with, sort of selling themselves and saying, actually, I'm really good at this, I'm really good at this, I've got lots of experience in this area, but making sure that you make the most of the opportunity to get as much information down as possible. We get a lot of questions about how to start a personal statement and that dreaded opening line. My advice would be perhaps leave the opening line, draft the rest of the statement, and then perhaps come back to the first line when you've thought about more about what the content will be. Try and be original again in what you say. I've read so many drafts that start with "from a young age," "ever since I was young, I wanted to study." Some students a bit more specific: "ever since I was 9, I've wanted to be a midwife." We know that's not true. So can you be a bit more creative, a bit more original in how you're starting it and giving us something that we want to read more about? We've heard a little bit from Ali about TV programmes. Please try and avoid references to TV programmes. It might be that Tiger King has inspired you to study criminology or psychology or business or conservation, but try and think about how other things could have inspired you, because watching TV doesn't really act to sort of give you enough experience. It doesn't act as work experience then watching 7 hours of Netflix. When you are talking about skills and experience, making sure that you're concentrating on sixth form or college experience. I've seen some personal statements in the past that have talked about really good experiences that might have happened in year 7, 8 and 9, but thinking about university admissions tutors and how much value then they might place on something that you did when you were 11 or 12, first starting out in comprehensive school. I'm going to give you an example that I'm hoping that will be useful for the rest of your personal statement. So a line that we might see a lot in a personal statement is, "I'm the captain of the school netball team and I excel in most other sports." Fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But what that person has missed really is an opportunity to talk a little bit about other skills, other experiences that experience as captain of the netball team has given them. So there's teamwork for one, an obvious one. Being captain, so what qualities did they have? What qualities have they got that make them a good captain? And also considering something like being captain of a netball team, you've got to balance that then with experience, with school and college work, perhaps a part-time job, other commitments outside of that. So demonstrating to universities then that you're able to manage your time, manage a lot of different responsibilities and are able to prioritise. Very briefly, I'm going to talk about the structure of your personal statement. So you absolutely need to start with why this course. That's the first thing that we're going to expect to hear about. So you need to focus your first 2 paragraphs at least on the course, why you've chosen it, who or what has inspired you to study that course, to take it further, to study it at university, what experience have you got further, other things that you've done then to further your knowledge in this subject area. The second thing I'd recommend talking about is perhaps work experience, volunteering experience. That's always useful. You might have done 2 days, you might have done 2 weeks. Any relevant work experience is going to be useful, is going to look good on your UCAS or your university application. I would also emphasise that it's important not to undervalue any part-time jobs that you might have. Often we speak to students who think, oh, the fact that they work in Tesco's on a Saturday isn't going to be really any use to them. Universities aren't going to be interested. But actually, part-time jobs, again, offer you the opportunity to show how you can manage your time between school or college, part-time job, and other commitments. Perhaps as part of your part-time job, you've got additional responsibilities. Perhaps you're always the one who volunteers for extra hours, so you're flexible, you're committed. So don't undervalue your part-time job. There are lots and lots of things you can say about it that will look good on a university application. The next thing I would suggest talking about is other things, other achievements that could be in school or college or outside of school or college. Perhaps you're a prefect, perhaps you've been involved in organising charity activities at school or college, perhaps you've been involved in organising social events. All of those things will have given you extra skills and extra experiences that you can share with us on your university application. And then towards the very end of your personal statement, I'd recommend a short paragraph about your hobbies and the things you do in your spare time. Please keep this paragraph short and please use it wisely. We know you like socializing. We know maybe you like watching Netflix. We know that you like going to the cinema or going to the gym. But are there other things that you do perhaps in the community to help out with things in your spare time that are going to add value to your personal statement then and make your personal statement different to the next personal statement we're likely to read? Just very quickly to finish off, I'm going to talk you through a couple of do's and don'ts. So do show enthusiasm and positivity. When you're talking about anything in your personal statement, you need to frame it in a positive way. You need to make sure that your personal statement is structured. So you've got the beginning paragraphs, middle paragraph, and then a closing paragraph in conclusion. Spelling and grammar is important. You'll likely be drafting a personal statement in Word. The reason that that's useful is that you're able to use spelling and grammar checks, and you're also able to keep an eye on your character count, which I'll talk about in a second, and making sure that you check it, that you give it to teachers, tutors, friends, family, people who can read through it and check it for you. The average number of drafts for a personal statement is 7. It's an average, so some do a few less than that, some do a few more, but it's really, really worth it. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's really, really worth it. And I would encourage you to keep your very first draft, keep a copy of it, and then compare it with the final draft that you submit to see how far you've come in terms of developing a really good personal statement. Things to avoid then, there's an awful lot of resources available online to support with personal statements. That could be through universities, could be through UCAS and other websites. I just encourage you to avoid copying anything that you read online and then including it as part of your own work. UCAS have got a really sophisticated system called Copycat. They'll scan your personal statement and will compare it to other examples available out there. So please don't fall into that trap. I've mentioned character count, 4,000 characters. You have to stick to that. There's no point in writing an outstanding personal statement that's 6,000 characters, because when you copy it and paste it into your UCAS application, 2,000 characters will disappear. 4,000 is the maximum. Please avoid using words that you don't understand. Often we see students thinking, I have to use the longest, most technical word that I can use because this is for a university application. Often then students will use them perhaps in the wrong way or in the wrong place, and actually that creates the opposite impression that they were hoping to create then. It's important not to name universities in your application, because you'll have one in your personal statement, because you'll have one personal statement that will be sent to all of your universities. So don't name many universities and say, I really want to study this course at this university in your personal statement. And the final thing is about being honest. I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but please don't tell any lies. Don't put anything in that's not true. If you're interviewed as part of this process, your personal statement will be in front of the person who's interviewing you. It's very, very difficult to keep a lie going under interview conditions. Okay, so just make sure that anything goes into that personal statement is accurate, true, and something that you're able to back up if you're interviewed. So next steps then, we've heard about virtual events. We know you can't actually visit campuses at the moment, but please get in touch with universities. We are all still here, so get in touch if you've got any questions about the personal statement or about your application or anything that might be worrying you. And as a starter, I would suggest getting a piece of paper, getting a pen, and just writing down anything you can think of that you might want to include. It might be a mess, there might be scribbles everywhere, but if you have one piece of paper that's got everything on it, that'll give you a really good basis then for starting to draft a first draft then of your personal statement. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Now, before we move on to Andy, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that submitted their questions. We have been reviewing these and we've selected some to ask at the end. If you still have a question, feel free to pop it in the question and answer session. And if we have time, then we'll get to your question as well. Okay, so now we're going to go over to Andy from City, University of London. He's going to be talking about student finance.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So we've heard some brilliant things about universities so far. How to go about researching and also about applying to universities. I've got the task of talking about how you pay for them and just 5 minutes to do so. So what I'm going to try and do is share with you some of my top tips, do a little bit of myth busting around student finance and how you can go about funding and supporting your studies. So the first thing to say with student finance is that things always change and they're always different. So it's really difficult to give you the most accurate picture we can. The numbers I'll be using will apply to students who are looking to go to university in September 2020. These will change year on year slightly, and a lot of time we're led by government decisions as well. So it's not always the case that it's universities, but government making a lot of these decisions. Arrangements are different as well in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So I'm going to focus mainly on the perspective in England, working in London where I'm based. But my colleagues obviously from Wales and Scotland are here as well. If anyone's got any specific questions for them, I'm sure they'll be happy to help out. So the first thing to say is that student finance and student support is generally split into four main sort of pots. There's tuition support, maintenance support, additional funding opportunities, and scholarships and bursaries as well. I'm going to just try and run through all of those very quickly for you this afternoon. So first of all, if you're eligible for Student Finance England support, you can get a loan to cover the entire cost of your tuition. So at the moment, tuition fees in England are up to £9,250 per year, and all eligible students are eligible for a loan to cover the entire cost of their tuition. Now, it's entirely up to you whether you want to take that loan out. You can take out as much or as little as you want as well. This is great. It means you don't have to pay a penny to your university up front at all. Everything is covered. And the way it works is Student Finance England, who process your application, will send that money straight to the university or college that you're looking to go to. And so there's no hassle involved in that process whatsoever. The tuition fee support is relatively straightforward and kind of the same for everybody else. There's also support to help you with your living costs at university, and this is what you might see referred to as the maintenance loan. Now, this is the loan that's a little bit more complicated. So every single person tuning in today, or further down the line as well, will have a different number in terms of working out what their support might look like to help with their living costs. And that's to do with the way this loan works. So the amount of money you can get your hands on varies depending on where you live and where you study as well. So to give you some examples of how that works in practice, if you're looking to stay at home and study at a more local university, for this September, you'd be able to get up to £7,747 per year. This loan also depends on things like household income, and so there are sliding scales to see where you would fit in terms of what you're eligible for. So that figure would be, if you're staying at home, up to £7,747 per year. If you choose to leave home and go and study somewhere else, so you move away from where you're currently living, you get slightly more money to help you out. So that's up to £9,203 per year. And also being based in London, there are some additional elements of support as well for students looking to study in London. So if you choose to move out from where you live now and move to study in London, at the moment you're eligible for up to £12,010 per year. This money doesn't go straight to university, it comes to you, it will hit your bank account, and it's up to you to decide what you want to do with that money. So that could be spending it on rent, it could be spending it on food, it could be on course materials, on socialising with friends, whatever it is that you choose to spend that money on. So it's really important that you've got an idea about how you're going to manage that money. As I mentioned, things do always change as well, so worth checking out exactly what you're eligible for when the time comes, and everyone doing that individually as well. I say I can't give you a number of exactly what all of you would get. It would be different for every single person. So that's the tuition fee loan and the maintenance loan. So those are the main two things that people think about when they think about student finance. In terms of additional funding, I mentioned as well, there's things like the disabled student allowance. So if students have got particular needs and requirements for university, they can get a bursary from the government. So this is free money that never has to be paid back to help support them with their transition and study at university. So there's one example of additional funding that's available. Another example that perhaps falls under the scholarships and bursaries category would be if you're interested in studying something like nursing or one of the allied health professions, there's a whole new suite of bursaries offered through the NHS. So up to £8,000 per year potentially to help you support with your studies. But the difference between these loans and the bursaries is that bursaries never have to be repaid. So this is money that's given to you as a student, up to you how you spend it, and a lot of the time you won't ever have to see that repaid. Scholarships and bursaries are a thing. They're offered by all different universities, and they really vary from university to university in terms of what they offer. Scholarships could be for things like sport or music or drama potentially, Bursaries tend to be based on more personal circumstances. And a lot of these, again, are applications for individual universities, and it's great that this is additional support that you will never have to pay back. But unfortunately, you will have to pay back some of this money that you'll be using to support your studies. And this is mainly the maintenance loan and the tuition fee loan. If you choose to take out these types of support, in terms of paying them back, they both get put together into one big lump sum, and then you start making contributions towards that. Now, the way that the repayments work is it's not based at all on what you borrowed in the first place. It's based on your future salary and when you're in work and you're earning. So that's one of the big differences to a normal loan, and the tuition fee loan and tuition fees and maintenance loans work a lot more like a tax in terms of how you repay them. So at the moment, you need to have graduated, you need to have a job where you're earning at least £26,575 per year. And after that, you start making contributions towards chipping away at that student loan that you've taken out. So if you were to say, for example, have a job of £30,000 per year, so you come out of university, you graduate, and you've got a job of about £30,000 a year, your monthly repayments are looking at about £30. So a basic sort of phone contract is what you're looking at. And it'll be £30 whether you borrowed £100 or whether you borrowed £50,000. So your repayments are always based on your future salary, not what you borrowed in the first place. So my advice to students would always be to have a look at what you can get your hands on, be sensible and work out what support you need and what support you want, and go from there really, and not focus too much on the figures that can be put in the news around student debt, but thinking about those repayments. They last for 30 years as well. So after 30 years, anything outstanding will be wiped off and won't be your responsibility anymore. So that's what I would take away if you can. Hopefully there's lots of support out there. Have a look at what you're eligible for. Tell us so we can help you. And just make sure that you're reading up, you know what you're eligible for, and making sure to keep on top of things as they change. Happy to take questions as well as we go on, but for now I'll hand back to Megan.
Thank you very much, Andy. And finally, we're going to go over to Jonathan Atkinson from the University of Liverpool. He's going to be talking you through the Russell Group and also going to give you a brief response of how universities are responding to COVID-19.
Hi Megan, thanks very much for that. So hi guys, yeah, thanks very much for sticking with us over the series of talks that we've just gone through. I'm going to finish with 2 points. So the first one is going to be about the Russell Group universities, and then I am going to try and give you some more information about what's currently going on in the response to the COVID-19 situation as well. So the Russell Group, starting off with, we are a group of 24 leading universities who are spread across the UK. The Russell Group are committed to excellent research. Often that research is world first, world leading, and global as well. And the great thing about having that outward look about what can we prove, what can we find, what's new, is integrating some of those new learnings and the high level of academic responsibility attached to them into your learning. So we offer outstanding teaching and a really strong, unrivaled almost learning experience. For people who are fact lovers, the Russell Group, they boast about 80% of the students who are in professional employment within 6 months of graduation. What's more important really is that there's about 61% of Russell Group graduates who are in the high skill bracket, which is the top bracket of the 4 sets that jobs fall into. Now, one of the main reasons for this is down to the fact that the Russell Group have really strong links with businesses and with the public sector, and have had these for a number of years as well. If you want to know exactly who makes up the Russell Group, who are the 24 members, what kind of impact that they might have on our economy, on global economies, and research further afield, then check out the informedchoices.ac.uk website. Now that website is a website just for the Russell Group universities, and will link you to each of their individual websites too. And also just check out the headlines. A lot of the universities, not just the Russell Group, are actually collaborating really closely together to try and have an impact on the current situation that we're in. So in terms of who the Russell Group are, well, we've directed you to the Informed Choices website, and I want to give you a little bit more information now about applying to a Russell Group university and hopefully getting an offer from them. So what steps can you take? Well, read, research, revise, repeat. The courses are often really competitive, and students should have a clear understanding about the differences, not only in the grades that are being asked for or the particular requirements for the course, but also how are the courses different? Are you applying for a psychology BSc, and how is that different from applying for a psychology BA? This is obviously information such as what Ali said before about just doing some general research. But at the Russell Group universities as well, it's really clear that you give that indication of knowledge that you've done the right kind of research for these competitive courses. Also start having to think, I mean, is your course going to be an exam focused course, or is it that you want to have a course that has multiple assessments, possible placement opportunities, and do those placements have observations attached to them? You're going to find all of this information to hand on individual university websites, and even better, if you have the opportunity, like Ali said, visit the open days, whether they're virtual or otherwise. The important thing here is for you to be proactive, and that applies in all of your university research. Key thing here, once you know the differences, you can start to explore what you might need to do next. What more do you need to do? Have you got a pre-application exam, such as a BMAT or a GANSAT or something that's attached to the clinical areas? And do you have work experience requirements? Obviously, a lot of clinical areas, such as doctors, for medicine, veterinary, nursing, they're going to have work experience requirements. Are you prepared for that? And are you making plans for it as well? Now more than ever, universities will try and provide more information about how that looks in the next year, but just keep yourself informed, keep looking at the websites, find out the information that you need. Do you maybe need to submit a portfolio? And the important thing here is a lot of these courses might ask you to come for an interview. Now, have you practiced interviews? Have you gone through an interview before? And are you prepared for the style of interview? Now, it's often common for a panel interview where 2, 3, maybe even 4 people are going to ask you a series of questions. And then more so these in recent years, we've seen the emergence of multiple mini interviews, often referred to as MMIs, where you're actually moving around maybe 5, 6 or 7 stations and actually answering different questions with different people. So basically, go out there, learn, try and gain as much information, because all of this is going to empower you. Being well prepared gives you the confidence that you need to show admissions teams that you're the right person for this course. You've got to get that enthusiasm, that passion, that confidence, and that knowledge across. Not much. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to repeat a bit of what my colleagues have already said. There's lots and lots of information out there, and there's no better time than right now to put a little bit of time each side, each day, each week maybe, to explore what's on offer. After you've looked at the brilliant UK UniSearch website, you can of course visit the series of other information websites that are out there. So I would advise you to have a look at UCAS's Information Hub, that Informed Choices website for the Russell Group. Check out if a university that you're interested in has a link with UniBuddy or maybe ambassadors who you can speak directly to, so you know you're getting honest answers from students as well. Explore the student room, and of course the best place for the most specific information is individual universities. They've got great websites and are working really hard to come up with ever-evolving content, both online, virtual delivery, and hopefully not in the too far-flung future, you can actually get opportunities to visit them in real life, which is always going to be key. There's lots of information you can get out there on universities, and the thing that I would always advise you to do is try to, when you get the opportunity, visit a university in person, because that gut reaction can count for an awful lot. So I'm going to move straight into the Corona update and just try and give you a little bit of information about what's going on. there is an awful lot going on, as you'll see. Information and situations are changing daily. What I'm not going to try and do is give you all the individual answers here, because I don't have them. But what I do want you to know is that there are huge amounts of people across multiple organisations who are working around the clock to try and make things easier, a little bit clearer and a little bit better. So here's what we know so far. There's a lot of really good collaboration going on. So there's Universities UK, not to be confused with our hosts, who represent university leaders. They're working with the Office for Students, and the Office for Students are the guys who aim to stand up for what's in the best interest of students, both yourselves and students who are currently at university. They are working really closely with UCAS to try and support admissions decisions and get timelines and more information out to people, especially if you're currently in year 13. And what is making the current situation really confusing, they're all trying to come together and work collaboratively. It's a massive challenge, considering the fact that all of the changes that we're faced with are brand new to us. Nobody was planning for this. So the fact that things are moving, they might not seem to be moving fast enough as people want them to be, but that doesn't mean they're not moving faster than they've ever moved before. People are trying to get to the end of these sort of solutions as quickly as possible. One of the final big things, and we should have some more information hopefully later today, maybe tomorrow, is from a company or an organisation called Ofqual, who look at the sort of the results side of things. They've already made some announcements about A levels, but there are still a lot of questions around access courses and BTEC students. And like I said, we're hopefully going to hear from them either today or tomorrow. So just watch out for the Twitter feeds, Facebook, all that kind of stuff as well. So lots and lots of information there, and I understand and feel your frustrations as well that there's not an awful lot of answers, but I want to stress that the conversations are happening, and even better is that universities individually are coming up with new and improved ways of supporting you and their current students as well. So they've still got a responsibility to look after everybody who's at university. So some universities are doing virtual open days, some are hosting questions and answer sessions just like we've got here. Some are doing that peer-to-peer student-led conversation. Joe, just have a look at their websites to see if you can find out some information that you're interested in. Otherwise, refer back to those big organisations like the Student Room, UCAS, UK Unisearch as well. The last thing I want to mention is that everybody who has offered information, advice from the different universities here, we're part of an organisation called HELOA, and we're a collective of universities nationally. We're sharing our ideas about what works, what doesn't work, how to support each other. So just in case you're thinking that universities are out there trying to poach, fight with each other, trying to win you over, it's not always how it seems in the papers, in the media. The vast majority of us, indeed everybody you've heard from today, we work together to help you make the right choice, make you aware of the information that's out there, and try and help you make an informed decision on what you want to do next. So what do you want to do next? What questions have you got? That's all for me for now. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you about your questions. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. We're going to start our question and answer session soon. But first, if you're viewing on Zoom, you'll see our polls window pop up in just a second. So feel free to fill out those now, or just minimise the question for later. Okay, thank you to those students who have sent questions over to us over the past week. We are going to start with a select few of these. There was a really good range here, so if you have something you would like to ask, it may be worth waiting a few minutes before typing that out to see if one of the panellists answer it for you. Okay, we're going to start with a question for Rebecca Oliver from Bournemouth University. This is a question from Poppy. What extra activities could I be doing to impress universities?
I think it really depends on the courses that you're applying for. Work experience has been referenced throughout the call today, and it's in lots of the questions that you're asking as well. Work experience is always really useful. For some courses, it's actually mandatory. So if you're applying for some of the health and social sciences courses, for example, you might have to have that work experience. We do recognise that that is always challenging. It's particularly challenging at the moment. It's really about making sure that what comes across to us in your personal statements is that you're passionate about the course that you're studying, and that you really understand what their potential career outcomes could be, and any opportunities that you have to really expose yourself to that particular career. So all universities will open their doors for guest lectures and other activities. We all have schools and colleges teams that will come out to schools and colleges to talk about those opportunities. We'll do taster days, we have summer residentials. Do your research and find out what opportunities that are available to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the institution you want to study at, but actually the university that's closest to you will still have that relevant kind of experience by going to those guest lectures that you can take on to other institutions when you're applying. And really think about any relevant reading or journals or magazines or articles and things that you can really keep on top of, so that you can reference those, whether in a personal statement or an interview or any other opportunity. So it's just really about making sure that you're really clear about what it is about that course, why, and what skills you think that you need to have for that and how you've gained them.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Next up, we have a question for Ali from Stirling. This is an anonymous question. I'm currently picking my firm and insurance universities. As I was unable to visit them for post-offer open days, how else can I decide which two are right for me?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of how to choose your course, the same sort of thing should be applying now. You've obviously applied for a number of courses on your UCAS form, and you need to sort of narrow the search down to two. Unfortunately, we're not able to do on-campus events at the moment, which would be ideal, but like I said, there's a lot of virtual events, so take advantage of the virtual events. Also, speaking to current students is probably your best bet, because they are studying the subjects themselves. So like, make use of UniBuddy, any student blogs, and then if there's virtual applicant days, Stirling's having their applicant day a week on Saturday. And we'll have student ambassadors from all different subjects on the live chat that students can speak to. So take advantage of those things. Another thing to think about, though, is your predicted grades. Looking at your predicted grades. In terms of your firm and insurance choice, it's worth noting that some people often make the mistake of putting their firm choice and their insurance choice as having the same conditions that are set by the university. And obviously, if you're not going to meet the conditions of your firm choice and your insurance choice is the same conditions, then you're not going to meet that either. So it's worth looking at your firm and insurance. It's worth looking at all your choices and making sure that your insurance choice has lower conditions set by that university than the firm choice, so that if you don't meet those conditions, you've at least got a backup plan. Okay.
Perfect, thank you very much, Ali. Next up, we have one for Elliot from Leicester. This is from Rosie. Will universities be offering more open days for prospective students when things return to normal?
Hello, yeah, good question, Rosie. The answer is probably. I would probably say at this point, universities are obviously going to be in a position where we know lots of students would like to physically visit. As good as all the virtual events that I spoke about earlier will be and allow you to find out the information, there is still nothing quite like visiting a university campus. So at the moment, speaking on behalf of the University of Leicester, we're currently planning the days that we have in the diary. So sort of throughout June, July, September and October and November. But it wouldn't surprise me, as someone that works with lots of universities in the sector, if universities wouldn't or didn't start putting on a few more events across the autumn term, particularly once sort of year 13 has started, to allow students to physically visit a bit more. It's also probably worth saying that even if universities don't put on more open days in the autumn term, universities generally will offer you the opportunity for campus tours regularly throughout any term, really, once they're reopen again. So if you can't find an open day that fits a date that you are able to visit a university, don't be afraid to get in touch and see if you can have a tour around with a current student. You might be able to meet a department and have a look around facilities, that sort of thing, and maybe accommodation too. So that's more a case of you being proactive as students to look into those opportunities. But in answer to the question, my guess would be probably yes, but that will really be down to an individual university's choice.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Next up, we have a question for Rebecca from South Wales. This is a question from Sophie. I'm planning to apply to 2 completely different degrees from different subject disciplines. Is it possible to submit an alternative personal statement for each? Would I have to write my personal statement half about one subject and half on the other? Which method would universities prefer?
Thanks for your question, Sophie. As I mentioned in my talk a little while ago, you've got one personal statement, and the same one version, one copy will be sent to all of the universities you apply to. So sending different personal statements wouldn't be an option, unfortunately. So I suppose the half and half method would be the best one. Ideally, your subjects would be quite closely related, but it's not an impossible task to write a personal statement for two very different subjects. What I would advise is a paragraph on one of the subjects, including all the things I've talked about already in terms of experience, in terms of skills, in terms of your own personal qualities, a paragraph about the other subject, doing the same thing. And then I think if there's any way that you can link the subjects, it might not be a really obvious link, but if there is a way that you can bring those 2 subjects together in another sort of couple of lines that show why you're interested in both and why you'd be good at both, whichever one you end up choosing ultimately, then I think that would be the best approach. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Next up, we've got one from Andy from City. This is another anonymous question. If you would like to apply for a scholarship, which scholarships and bursaries are available, and when do the applications open, and what do the applications entail?
That's a really good question, and I'm probably not going to give you the most useful answer, to be absolutely honest with you. This varies massively from university to university. Every university will offer things like scholarships and bursaries. It just depends what they offer with every individual one. To use some examples, at City, for example, we do a scholarship around academic excellence, students achieving top grades. There's no application for this. This is automatic, and we know this based on your grades that you send to us. But then we do also have bursaries to support care leavers, for example, and that we would require some more information, and there would be an application form for that. It's basic personal details as well as some specific questions about your situations. Some universities offer things like sports scholarships, where they may want evidence of training camps you've attended, or accreditations from different competitions you've competed in as well. But the crucial thing to look into is what each university will offer and exactly how they want you to apply to every single one. There's loads of stuff out there, but it's quite difficult to give a one-size-fits-all.
Great, thank you, Andy. Next up, we have one for Jonathan from Liverpool. This is a question from Emmanuel. Most Year 12 students across the country are not able to do their mock examinations, which normally give them their predicted grades. Which will universities take this into consideration, as they might not be as high as they might have been?
Yeah, I think there's a really good point on it, and it stretches across this question and a lot of the questions people are submitting. And I can fully understand that students are concentrating on what's happening to them individually, but you also have to understand that this isn't just happening to you, this is happening to everybody. So when it comes to mocks, we don't know what individual schools and colleges are going to do because the mock exams aren't regulated nationally. Schools don't have to do mock exams, it's just good practice. So it will be down to each individual school or college to decide what they do about mock exams, if they hold them in year 13, whether they just predict them on assessments that you've already done through year 12. That's going to be up to each individual school and college. What is really important here is that you're all going to be in the same situation as each other. But don't feel that just because you haven't sat a mock exam, you're going to be at a disadvantage to somebody else, because the chances are there are going to be a huge amount of people who haven't sat mock exams, especially given the current situation. So we don't have an exact answer, but you're not alone in this situation, and I think there will be a pretty common response once we are able to return back to our schools and colleges and see what the best option is there. Universities, though, will continue sharing information and working together to try and identify the best way of gauging your ability. So we'll move together, and we'll move forwards together to try and come up with a solution.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Next up, we're going to go back to Rebecca Oliver from Bournemouth University. This is a question from Sophie. What are the living costs at universities roughly?
As with some of the other answers, actually, I think there isn't a set budget as how much university will cost, because it really does it does depend on where in the country you're wanting to study, and it depends on your personal circumstances. So obviously for those students that choose to continue living at home, their outgoings are going to be significantly less than those who do choose to move into a halls of residence or other accommodation. So actually it's really about thinking about you and your individual circumstances. There are so many tools available for you to start budgeting. Now's the time to get used to this, because if you go to university, you'll need to get very good at budgeting. Is really thinking about what all those outgoings are going to be for you. So some of them are really obvious. You know, you need to think about your accommodation costs, and you need to think about feeding yourself. Other things are actually thinking about those social elements, thinking about travel. So it depends where you are in the country. Are you going to have to travel to and from the university from your accommodation? Is it something that you can walk to? How often are you going to want to go home? And thinking about actually the cost of getting from the university back home as well, and how frequently you want to do that. So it's about thinking about all of the different areas that you're going to have to spend that money on. And don't forget the all-important socialising, whether that be a gym membership, which you do get a lot of discounted gym memberships at university and being a student. It might be just about going to the cinema or doing any other extracurricular activities. So I would absolutely recommend having a look at some of those online tools. And Martin Lewis, Money Saving Expert, does a fantastic one, but there are lots of other opportunities and options out there. But really sitting down and starting to think about the genuine living costs. So not just thinking about the cost of the course itself, but about those everyday costs. So there's not a firm answer. It does put a little bit of the work back on you to do that research, but absolutely think about it in the context of when you're going to open days, whether they're virtual or not. Ask the current students how much they are genuinely spending or generally spending on their outgoings, and that will give you a much firmer idea as well.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Next up, we have a question for Ali from the University of Stirling. This is a question from Jessica. How do you display a passion for the course you want to take?
So normally I would recommend work experience, because that can also well, when I did work experience, it actually put me off what I had thought for 4 years what I wanted to do. So it can help confirm that you're interested in that, and also gives you some good experience as well. Obviously with the lockdown, it's more difficult for you to get work experience. So there's other ways that you can show passion in terms of research into what the career or what career path that university course will entail. Maybe you've got a career goal at the end of it. Subjects that you need for that particular course, you can talk about things that you've done in that subject, perhaps in school, that have you know, shown why you're so interested in that subject, and as a result the course. So I would say probably research if you're not lucky enough to have done some work experience. But thinking outside the box as well. I think Rebecca touched on earlier when she was talking about personal statements, that, you know, that some people might say, oh, I'm in the I lead the netball team. Yeah, but what makes you different? Or very often, you know, we get personal statements of people that are head boys or head girls, but then we've probably got 70 other personal statements that are head boys, head girls. What have you done while you've been a head boy, head girl? What have you done while you've been a prefect? What makes you different? Even outside school, what makes you different? That's the sort of thing that we're looking for. And I would say, and Rebecca also touched on this, but in terms of displaying your passion for your course, you can do that certainly should be in the first paragraph. You need to grab the attention of the admissions tutor that you are interested in that particular course, but avoid cliches. So two top tips, if you don't remember anything else today, is if you're applying for mechanical engineering, please don't mention Lego. I'm sure we all played with Lego when we were 4, but that hasn't necessarily resulted in us all going into a career in mechanical engineering, but you would be surprised the amount of people that apply to mechanical engineering and do mention Lego or Scalextrics. The other thing is avoid quotations. It may be that you are not 100% sure how to start your personal statement, but we would far rather everything was in your own words. I worked for another university and I sat with all the psychology personal statements a couple of years ago. Every second personal statement that I looked at was a quotation. They were all different quotations, but they were all quotations. So try and think outside the box, think about your own experiences, and if you haven't got work experience, like I say, maybe do a little bit more research online about that degree and what sort of careers it can offer you.
Thank you very much, Ali. Next up, we have a question for Elliot from the University of Leicester. What are your thoughts on the EPQ? Is it worth doing, and will it lower the entry requirements for university?
Yeah, good question again. With the EPQ, I think it's definitely something that students could and should be taking if you get given the opportunity. There's been a lot mentioned today about how do you stand out from the crowd, how do you show a passion in a subject, how do you really research in depth into particular topics to complement your personal statement. And the EPQ is one of probably the strongest ways of doing this. Is obviously the work involved gives you insight into a particular topic. It makes you do some independent research, which universities really like. It'll also bridge the gap a little bit between what you're learning now and what you'll learn at university. And it really showcases you as potential researchers at institutions across the country. And speaking from a Leicester point of view, we make differential offers for EPQ students across a range of our subjects, where we offer you a grade lower, providing you achieve at least a B or above in your extended project. There's quite a lot of universities across the country that also do the same. For those that don't, or for subjects at university that do, but some individual subjects, e.g. medicine, don't, we do still like to hear about it within a personal statement. As I said, it really can showcase, if you're trying to tell me or one of our admissions team or admissions tutors why you like a particular aspect of chemistry, if we take that as an example, having done a bit of an independent research project into that particular aspect of chemistry is a fantastic example to use to really showcase that particular interest. So in answer to the question, yes, if you get the chance, definitely do it. And in terms of the entry requirements, for some universities it will have an impact, and for others it won't, but it does stand out on any application.
Perfect, thank you very much, Elliot. Next up, we have a question for Rebecca Bowen from the University of South Wales. We've had lots of questions about work experience today, so if you are looking to get some answers, then make sure you listen up to this response. This is a question from Sajida. If current Year 12s had work experience planned that has now been cancelled due to COVID-19, what would you recommend putting on personal statements instead?
I think that's a really good question, Sajida, and it's something that we've obviously seen a lot of people asking similar questions. I think we've heard from a number of the speakers today that this is unprecedented, but it is a situation that's affecting us all. So universities will be very, very aware that the opportunities for Year 12 students looking for work experience and things like that will have been limited. So there will be some allowances made around that, certainly for students making university applications. And we know that placements will have been more difficult to come by. What I would encourage you to think about was, Ali touched upon sort of the research that you could be doing. So there's things you can watch, you can listen to, you can read about, to give you a greater understanding of your subject area and outside of what you might have learned at school or college. And I would also encourage you to consider whether there are things that you could be doing during this time that might be valuable for your personal statements. Obviously, the priority is keeping yourself and your loved ones safe. But just a quick glance at social media, you can see all of the kind of initiatives that are underway at the moment in terms of helping people's health and mental well-being, sort of volunteering, helping vulnerable people in the community, that sort of thing. Like you said, the priority is keeping yourself and your loved ones safe. But if there are things that you can get involved in during this time, when you have got a bit more free time than perhaps you thought you might have at this time of year, then I'd encourage you to have a look at that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Next up, we have a question for Andy from City University of London. This is a question from Georgie. When should you apply for a student bank account?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Georgie. It's a really good one. So to normally open a student bank account, you often need three things. There's an ID, a proof of your address, and a confirmed place at university. Now that normally can be a little bit of a weird way around for people because they think, well, I need to have a student bank account to fill out my student finance application. But it's not true. You can fill out your student finance application with any bank account. The student finance application deadline is usually around the May of the year you're looking to go to university. So if you want to go in September, it's worth getting that application in for May this year. Now, obviously, you won't have grades and you might not have a confirmed place at university. So you will struggle to open that bank account, but you can get your student finance set up to come to any bank account and then just swap it over nearer the time. The best thing about these bank accounts, there's loads of great offers and freebies that you can get with them as well, to help support you whilst you're at university. But I'd say the main thing to do is put something in the application now and then try and get that student bank account open before you start in September so you can make the most of all the opportunities that come with it.
Great, thank you very much, Andy. And now we have another question for Jonathan from the University of Liverpool. This is an anonymous question. Will universities still take students in the clearing process?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand what your options are when it comes to confirmation and clearing. Once the grades are announced, universities will work very hard, very quickly to confirm the students. That means deciding whether or not the grades that you have received are meeting the requirements that they've now set. Once that's all happened, then clearing will open. So where there are spaces available at universities in particular courses, you will be able to apply to them. And there'll be a few different reasons why you might want to consider clearing. One of them is that you might have grades which are lower than you were expecting, and therefore the university you've originally applied to has declined to take you on. So it's not all over if that happens. That's why clearing exists, is to mean that you will have a great choice of courses at a number of universities that you can try to apply to. The other thing is as well that universities have made lots of different types of offers, and it is that you might have made a decision to go to one particular university and now you've changed your mind. Now that again is where clearing comes into place. You have the opportunity and the power to decline a place and take up a clearing spot at a different university. I'll be really clear with this though. Do not decline any of the places that you might have confirmed before accepting and having it in writing that you've got a place at another clearing, at a course at another university through clearing. It's really important that clearing is going to be open. It's going to be available for everybody. It's a good option, but the timing and the way that you approach clearing has to be really really clear and really well thought out as well. So make sure that if you are interested in clearing, that you've done a bit of research, that you have something in writing via email that offers you a place at a university before you go and decline any sort of courses or remove yourself from a course that you might have already been confirmed into. But clearing will be open, choices will remain, and it is really important that you do consider what's the right place for you, and is it a good choice as well.
Thank you very much, Johnny. So that was the end of our questions which have been submitted prior to the webinar. We're now going to be answering some of the questions from the question and answer chat in Zoom and also from the chat function in YouTube. First up, we have a question for Rebecca Bowen from the University of South Wales. With calculated grades, what if I don't get the grades for my course?
I think it's always the sort of thing that people are worried about is getting the grades. I think what is important to remember is that grades are an important factor for us, obviously, at universities when we're making offers, but it's not the only factor. So I'd suggest, as I've already talked about, personal statement is going to be taken into account, a reference from a teacher or a tutor is going to be taken into account as well. And I'd also bear in mind that grades that are published in prospectuses online are sort of often typical offers, and it might be that the offer made by the university for a particular student might be lower than that as well. So it's certainly not all about the grades.
Perfect, thank you very much. Next up, we have a question for Ali Clark from the University of Stirling. Is it possible for a course to be oversubscribed? If so, what happens?
Yes, it is possible. Having worked in an institution or two institutions that actually offer medicine, it can be oversubscribed. As a result of that, obviously Rebecca has talked about the importance of the personal statement today. I would say with the sort of unknown at the moment, because obviously it's predicted grades that we as universities are going to be receiving, I think that's as a result of that, personal statement will come into play a lot more. So if a course is oversubscribed, then they certainly will be looking much more closely at the predicted grades are important, yes, but the personal statement will be important as well. I can't speak for other universities. It's a totally different situation in Scotland in that we have capped places for Scottish students, so we can't go over a certain amount that is stipulated in terms of population for each course of Scottish students, but I can't speak for the English universities. We certainly don't have the caps on English, Welsh and Northern Irish students that we do for Scottish students, but like I say, we can't go over. And I would say that for some of the sort of medical and healthcare related courses, nursing for instance, medicine, paramedic science, physiotherapy, etc., it's likely that each university will have been, they have to be quite strict in terms of keeping the numbers to the ones that they've agreed upon. So something like film or accountancy or history, obviously you're not using the same equipment. A lot of it's lecture based or tutorial based, so there is a bit more flexibility, but certainly for some of the healthcare related courses, then it can be oversubscribed, and we need to be quite firm on that. It's not going to change this year.
Thank you very much, Ali. Next up, we have a question which we're going to pose to two of our panellists. What are the advantages and disadvantages of attending a campus university or a city university? So I'm going to ask Rebecca Oliver from Bournemouth to talk about the campus. And I'm going to ask Andy from City University of London to talk about going to a city university.
I think that it all depends on your personal preference, doesn't it? So I think we, Bournemouth University is 17,000 students. We have quite a strong community. It's very easy for people to be able to navigate their way around, for example, but actually sometimes that doesn't suit individual students. So I think actually it's really about thinking it's not necessarily you're going to get taught any differently, you're not going to get a different degree outcome. It's about that individual experience. So it's about actually what suits you. So for me, when I went to university, a city environment just wouldn't suit me. I'm a country girl through and through. I like being able to come back home and come to a small village, whereas actually for other people, that's their worst nightmare. So I think it really is just important that people make the right choices for them. It's not going to affect your degree, it's going to affect your experience.
Yeah, I think Rebecca's absolutely right. You've got to do what works for you. I studied at a campus university. I now work at a more city-based university. I think the difference is, from my experience, where that campus was great, it had everything together, it had a real nice community feel. Whereas being a city university, you have got loads on your doorstep. So rather just looking at your university facilities, there's loads of stuff around you that you can go and dip into and mix with that local community. There's no reason you can't do that on a campus as well. It's just suiting whatever environment works best for you, I think.
Great, thank you very much, guys. Now we have a question from Jonathan from the University of Liverpool. Will university fees increase or decrease as a result of the current academic?
I haven't heard anything about fees being mentioned. I personally don't think that that's going to be of a focus for anybody. The government set what universities can charge, and I think that the kind of conversations that we're having right now are focusing on getting year 13 their grades that they need so that they can start university. That will concentrate on looking after the students that we've got at the university right now and making sure that they're well looked after and get back on track with things. And then we start supporting year 12 with getting to university as well. So there's so many different aspects of for consideration right now that fees are not on the agenda. So there's been no discussion that I'm aware of about it as it currently stands, and I don't think that there will be a lot of discussion about it for a considerable amount of time until we sort out the really pressing matters, which is getting you guys into university and supporting our students at university.
Great, thank you very much, Jonathan. Now this may be our last question as we're coming up to 1:30 now, and this one's going to be for Elliot from the University of Leicester. Does the ranking of a university matter?
Good last question. I would say it really comes down to the individual choice as to whether you see yourself as that university and that course being the best fit for you. A ranking may come into some form of your university research. It might not be important at all. It's worth looking at what the rankings are made up of. If you can find that, it's quite hard to find information, but it's useful to know that not all university league tables are the same in terms of the calculations. But it can help your university research a little bit. My suggestion is, if in terms of your order of priority, league table rankings should be nearer the bottom than the top in terms of how you differ from course to course. Mainly because what no university league table will ever tell you is that you will enjoy studying that course at that university. It gives you an indication into certain statistics, but not you as an individual. So I'd always suggest, obviously, visiting, and in this scenario at the moment, virtually visiting universities, looking at course descriptions, speaking to current students as well. Probably one of the best indications as to whether you can see yourself fitting in. So they can play a part, but I'd always go with what we've kind of hopefully tried to echo as a collective today in doing the research, looking at universities and speaking to universities, looking at descriptions, speaking to current students, and all of that together can really help you find the right institution. And then if that institution or that course is really highly ranked, then fine, but it shouldn't be the other way around.
Great, thank you very much, Elliot. Does anyone have anything to add to that question at all? No? Perfect. Unfortunately, that was our last question for today. Our apologies if we weren't able to answer your question today, but we'll be back after Easter with another webinar Wednesday, and we'd love to see you again then. If you'd like to be emailed about our future webinars, please visit our website. That's www.ukuniversitysearch.com and click the orange register button to sign up for our emails. We also have a really great series of blogs on COVID-19, so be sure to check those out while you're there. I'm sure you'd like to join me in saying a massive thank you to our fantastic panellists, Rebecca Oliver from Bournemouth University, Ali Clark from the University of Stirling, Elliot Newstead from the University of Leicester, Rebecca Bowen from the University of South Wales, Andy Cotterill from City, University of London, and Jonathan Atkinson from the University of Liverpool. Thank you very much to both our Zoom and YouTube viewers And from me and the whole UK University Search team, stay home and stay safe.